Hey folks, Eric from Another Voice with Jason and Eric on WOLT 103.3 FM in Greenville, Greer, and Spartanburg, South Carolina. Go to canIGetAWordIn.com. Podcast there if you can't get our radio station. I am shocked. I did not expect the Supreme Court to rule the way it did on the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare as it's referred to. I figured that they wouldn't throw the whole thing out, but that they would rule against the individual mandate, based on the questions that were asked by the justices. I am shocked that they upheld the whole thing, that the individual mandate is constitutional. Now, I will say that the Supreme Court has interpreted something differently than the actual wording on the page. The bill does not call the individual mandate a tax. President Obama didn't call it a tax. The court said it is a tax, and the government has the right to tax. For me, that's the Supreme Court finding a way to justify this. I actually think the individual mandate's fine. I don't like it in the sense of don't tell me what to do, but it is about a personal responsibility. Vast majority of Americans have unpaid medical bills on their records. That's theft. Now, I know, health costs are high, health insurance is difficult to get, people are sick, they need to take care of things. Yeah, I'm not really saying they're being, terribly deceitful people, but they didn't pay their bills. You don't pay your rent, you get kicked out of your apartment. You don't pay your mortgage, you lose your house. There is no consequence for not paying for your medical care. The individual mandate requires people to pay their bills. I would have worded the bill differently. I would have said every American has to pay for their health care in some way, whether it's insurance, health savings account. They want to take big bags of pennies and stick it on the counter and pay for their bills. That's fine, but you have to pay for it. Now, the individual mandate was a way to do that. It's worth noting that the idea of personal responsibility with the individual mandate was a conservative idea. Now, like many conservatives have said, they thought that was a good idea, then they thought, well, no, it's actually telling people you have to buy something, so that's wrong. I think they were right in the first point. But what now? What happens now? Well, first of all, there is no relaxing now. Regardless of where you come down on this issue, it's not a time to just sit by. If you are my friends on the right who are appalled at this decision, who believe that this is a travesty, you have a big job to do. And I want to remind you to not make the mistake you made from your position when President Obama was elected. You spent so much effort trying to stop President Obama from being elected that you ignored the House and the Senate, which then got taken over by Democrats. And there would be no Affordable Care Act if you owned one or both of those houses. It wouldn't have happened. The Democrats owned both of them. And so you took your eye off the ball. So in this election, if you focus all your attention on President Obama again, you're making the same mistake. For my friends on the right, if you want to repeal this law, if you want to change this in any way, you're going to have to take control of the House and Senate and get rid of President Obama. But that actually isn't necessary if you own the House and Senate. If you have a big enough majority, even if you repeal it and he decides to not sign it or veto it, you can override his veto. But you have to be in control of where the power really lies, and that's in Congress. We tend to credit and blame the president for things that Congress does all the time. For my friends on the left, you've won a victory, you're happy, this is wonderful, but you can't sit back and rest. Because right now, in the House, there are efforts to vote on repealing the Affordable Care Act right now. And they can do it. The fact that it's constitutional according to the Supreme Court doesn't mean that Congress can't say, you know what, we changed our mind. We don't really like this. It may be constitutional, but it's not the best idea. So those efforts are there. Eric Cantor said that today, that they're going to be voting on that. Now the Senate is controlled by the Democrats, and it probably will fail. But November's coming. If you want this act to stay, you need to regain control of the House and Senate and keep President Obama in office. But even if you lose President Obama, if you have the House and the Senate, it's not going to be repealed. So, voters, you got work to do. whatever your position is. And can I tell you something, folks? My friends that dislike this, that are upset about this, I understand your frustration and your ire, and you're just so mad. But let's be factual and honest about this. And it's not the end of the world. It really isn't. America is not done because we have this act. This is not the end of the world. But I also got to tell my friends on the right, the law is the law. One thing I've learned from my friends on the right is the rule of law. This is the law. Now we can adjust it, we can amend it, and if you have enough votes, you can repeal it. But it's the law. So states, you got to implement what it says. This whole idea that we're going to nullify, I'm sorry, folks, we are one country. And this nullification idea is ridiculous. It's the law. And businesses and states should have already been working on implementing this, even if it got overturned, because they don't lose anything. And they should work on it. And remember, this doesn't get fully implemented until 2014. Folks, we need to stop fighting each other and get this thing done. Now, I know I'm an optimist, and I think we can work together. Right now, that's not going to fly anywhere with y'all. My friends on the right are screaming that this is terrible. I read things on Facebook, the country's at an end. We need a revolution. People quoting the Declaration of Independence. People actually saying to storm the White House. Physically storm the White House. I know it's hyperbole. Come on. There's a process by which this works. And we went that way. It can still continue. Go ahead and work in Congress to get it repealed. But it's not the end of the world. And let's spread the blame where it goes. It's Congress. It's the president. It's the Supreme Court. And it's you and me. How we vote, how involved we get, how often we talk to our representatives. All right, folks, there's so much more on this. We are not going to get to it on this podcast. Tune into the show on Monday, 1 to 2 p.m., WOLT 103.3, or www.canIGetAWordIn.com. And while you're on the web, searching for positions and ideas about this healthcare thing and very upset, just take a moment to scroll on over to pdoutfitter.com. That's our friends at Dry Fire Training Pistol Company's store, where they sell quality firearms, survival gear, first aid gear, lots of quality items. That's pdoutfitter.com. Until next time.